Hello, welcome to our series of Delhi Sultanate and Mughals. And today we are joined by a very eminent historian. She is Mrs. Meeta Joshi, who is the head of the department of one of the prestigious college in Hyderabad. So before we start discussion about today's topic, and that is Razia Sultan, and would like to welcome her today. Welcome to the show, Meeta ji. How are you doing today?
Namaskar, Kanchan. I'm fine. How are you?
I am perfectly fine, and as you know that we are discussing Razia Sultan, and so I would like to ask you, what is the importance of Razia Sultan in Delhi Sultanate? Why we must discuss this head of the state in Delhi Sultanate?
A very good question, Kanchan. First of all, why we should discuss her because she was the only female Muslim ruler of Delhi, and she was the first female Muslim ruler of the subcontinent, which makes her very, very important. Because in the Delhi Sultanate rule, which was an Islamic rule, and as you know, there were many restrictions which were imposed on women. In that scenario, a woman emerges out to be a leader is really commendable. So that's why we should know about her.
So, what are those circumstances which initiated her rise to the throne of Delhi Sultanate?
See, she was the daughter of Iltutmish. Iltutmish was the son-in-law of Qutbuddin Aibak, who was the founder of slave dynasty or Mamluk dynasty. So after the unfortunate death of Qutbuddin Aibak while playing the game of polo, Iltutmish succeeded him. And Iltutmish had sons too. It is not that he never had a male here. He did have. He trained his elder son Nasiruddin Mahmud to be the successor, but unfortunately, Nasiruddin Mahmud he passed away in around 1229 AD, and when Iltutmish had some problems in Gwalior, so he went for that expedition. And that time he appointed Razia Sultan as his, in charge of Delhi that time in 1231 AD. And when he came back, he was very much surprised to see that this girl had taken the administration in her hand in a very effective way. So then he was sure and he decided that she would be, his heir apparent. After the passing away of Iltutmish was succeeded by Ruknuddin Firoz. He was the half brother of Razia Sultana and the son of Shah Turkan. Shah Turkan was another wife of Iltutmish, and she conspired to kill Razia because she knew that if Razia will be there, it would be very difficult for Ruknuddin Firoz to become the emperor of Delhi. So Ruknuddin Firoz was crowned the emperor of Delhi Sultanate. But because Iltutmish knew this, all his sons were into wine, women, all types of luxuries. And he knew that they won't be able to administer the huge empire of Delhi Sultanate. But Shah Turkan, with the help of the nobles which were there, Iltutmish had a group of 40 people, which were known as Turkan-e-Chihelgan. So these 40 people, they guided and helped Iltutmish in day-to-day administrative work. So Shah Turkan, with the help of the nobles and these 40 people, Chehelgan, they made Ruknuddin Firoz the king. But as he had no qualities to be a king or an emperor, so Razia Sultana, she appealed to the people of Delhi that you help me to become the ruler and I will meet all your expectations. And with the help of the public, Ruknuddin Firoz was deposed from the throne and Razia ascended the throne in 1236 AD of Delhi, and a khutbah was read on her name in the Jama Masjid, and she was declared the Sultan of Delhi. So she was the first female ruler, number one. Number two, the first female ruler of the entire subcontinent too. So that way she is, a great personality if you see her from that perspective. But not only her personality, but whatever she did in the very short tenure of 4 years, from 1236 to 1240, she was the king or the queen of Delhi. And she, because she was a woman, and the nobles, they started conspiring that why a woman should rule men, that male ego. And they started conspiring against her. So she left her female attire, and whenever she appeared in public or whenever she came to the court, she was dressed in a male attire. Okay, and she said the attire should be general, whether you are a female or you are a male. There should be a uniform when you come to the court. So that she made sure that whenever she came to the court and she went out in public as an emperor or a queen, she was always dressed in a different attire, like dressed in as if she's not a female, with her turban and all those clothes. So that makes her very, very unique, Kanchan, that way.
Before we go forward, we have a guest. So now, I
Okay.
mentioned that she ruled a very limited period, maybe. So, what are those? What is the impact of her rule when we really discuss about Delhi Sultanate? And as we mentioned, that she did everything possible to display her capabilities through attire, through administration. So, what is the impact of her rule and how much she ruled on Delhi?
See, the first thing she did when she came to the throne was she, the 40 people who were very close to her father and the nobles, she made sure that they are, suppressed. And she appointed non Turkish people in important positions. Till now, from Qutbuddin Aibak's time and Iltutmish tenure, these nobles and these Chehelgan, the 40 people who were again noble people, they interfered in the administration too much, which Razia Sultan did not like. So she removed them and she appointed non noble people in important positions. That way, she won the hearts of the people of Delhi because she promised when she appealed to the people of Delhi that you make me the Sultan, And she said, if I don't meet your standards, then you can any day depose me. That she told openly. So when she appointed those simple people to some important positions, so naturally she won the hearts of the people of Delhi. And slowly she made changes in the administration, because if you see, Razia's state policy is still researched, okay, and it is very much discussed in the classes. So, what was her state policy? She always made sure that there should be equality, because as a female, e- every step was a challenge for her. The noble peoples, they were after her life. Shah Turkan, her stepmother, was after her life. So it was a very, difficult times for her. And if you see her tenure, it was hardly 3 years, 6 months, and 6 days. After that, she was killed by a group of nobles. They conspired and they killed her. So, in that small time, also, she what main thing she did was she gave up parda totally, because in Islam parda is very, very important. But what she did, she gave up parda and started appearing in the court in a male attire, wearing a coat and a cap. So that way, she defied the Islamic rules. Then she started riding horse, she started hunting, and she started commanding the army. A woman commanding a set of men in the army, and those men listening to her. So that was her power, you see. And then she took keen interest in all administrative activities of the state, the minute ones and the major ones. She was very much concerned about all the activities of administration. And she herself appointed several iktadars, commanders, and other officers. Now, you will ask me, what were the iktadars? So, Ikta system was a very unique system in the time of Delhi Sultanate, in which a piece of land, the person who owned that land was known as an iktadar. And whatever revenue came from that land belonged to that iktadar, and some share they had to give to the state also. So she herself appointed the iktadars and commanders and other officers, and she conducted the affairs of the state in an open darbar. So there was transparency. In open darbar, everyone was allowed to question, everyone was allowed to ask. Okay, so it is, and to tell you the truth, Kanchan, she had all the qualities what a good king should have. But her only drawback was that she was a female. That's why she was, deposed from the throne through conspiracies. And finally, she lost her life. She was killed by a group of nobles in 1240 AD. Though she tried to manage everything, she even married a noble. His name was Altunia. And she thought that maybe, marrying this man would help her in retaining the emperor's empress's position. But then, because the group of nobles were powerful and they could not she could not get over this fact that at the end of the day she was a female, and that too from an Islamic background. So that was her um drawback, because one of the historians, Minhas Ustiras, he mentions in his book, he says that she had all the qualities, but only drawback that she was not born in a right sex. She was a female, you see, and uh, being a woman was an important cause for her failure. Otherwise, if people would have supported her that time, then she would have changed the face of the Sultanate totally by her policies. So very open-minded. She was very open-minded, and she was controversial also because she appointed one Abyssinian slave, Yakut, in a very important position, Amir Akhur. Amir Akhur was the in charge of stables where horses were kept, a very important position. So it was also said that she had an affair with this person, Yakut, which many historians have mentioned. But how far it was true, because when you conspire against anyone, someone, then you put all types of allegations. So how far, but she had a liking towards that Abyssinian slave is for sure, because she tried to favor him as much as she could that time.
Well, it is
And then because she was against the yeah, I was saying that because she was against the traditions of Islam, that also upsetted the Turkish nobles, okay, who only wanted the woman to be in parda. And first of all, it was a it was a monarchy, and then in a monarchy, a woman coming up to a position of a sultana. So they could not digest that fact.
Well, it is so tragic that her period is cut short and she was not taken so seriously, in spite of being so capable and so much ready to really change and help people. Now, what we can really take away from her short period of ruling of Delhi Sultanate, and what is the importance of her rule when we talk about in today's context? Does she created any impact uh, through her very limited period of time of ruling?
See, personally, if you ask me, not as a historian, but as a woman, she inspires me, because besides all the challenges she faced, she emerged victorious. And it also, if you see in another perspective, she showed that a woman also is capable of everything. She was a good administrator, she was a good um, woman personally, okay, and she was very popular among the people of Delhi. Like, she was a heroic figure. And when she went out in the horse, as a dressed in a male attire, so she broke all the boundaries which kept a woman at bay. So personally, if you ask me, she really inspires me, because she, in that short tenure of her time period as the Empress of Delhi, she did a commendable job. First of all, she showed women a way. She became an example that when I can do, you can too. So she inspires me very much, Kanchan. plus the type of administration she adopted. Like she herself chose the iqtadars, she herself chose the governors and the other officers, and she had a very amicable, type of relationship with all of them. So that's why the common people, they really adored her and they really loved her. But it was those Turkish nobles who conspired against her and got her killed, which is very, very sad. But then, see, it has happened in the history every single time. When you say that, woman empowerment, and you talk all those things, but at a personal level, when you observe yourself, you are still the same woman. you know though you are educated, though you are knowledgeable, but at the end of the day, you are not seen as par with men. Every time you're told you are a woman, you have to be mellow, you have to obey, you have to do certain household chores, which are not gender specific, but you have to do. So that way, yeah, she should historians to take some inspiration.
Definitely, because Razia always inspired when I was in school, and I really appreciated the profile. And I'm sure there are some takeaway when we talk about Razia, because it was, I can really visualize it must have been very, very difficult for a lady to really rise so high. So, any last thought you would like to,
Exactly.
any last thought you would like to share with our viewers, and why we should really appreciate this lady who became Empress of Delhi Sultanate, and why it is so different? Because as you mentioned that she has come from a Islamic world, and when we talk about other cultures, women especially in India, they had those kind of powers, but coming from a Islamic world, I think it must have been very difficult. So any last thought you would like to share with our viewers?
See, again, I will say that she is an inspiration still to many, many women, because see, in India you cannot say that women enjoyed a very good position. It was only in the Vedic ages that, the women were educated, they had a free will, they were allowed to choose their husbands. Okay, and it was a different society. But after the Muslim invasions which happened in India, then women were restricted inside their houses, and the parda system originated basically to save the woman from the invaders. It was not like that they wanted to suppress the woman that time, but it was to save them from the invaders, so that, because Indian women were always beautiful and are still beautiful, so they don't get allured by their beauty. So that's why this system of parda started. In coming from such an orthodox background and reaching the topmost position of Delhi Sultanate is not a joke. So she was and she is an inspiration, and she will continue to be, because when she in Delhi, her grave is there, okay, in Mubarak Mohalla, in Delhi. So initially, her grave became a sort of pilgrimage, because many people used to visit her grave. And later, when after the slave dynasties, when the Khiljis and Tughlaq, Sayyids and Lodis, when they came to power, so it was a neglected site. And still it is a neglected site, though Archaeological Survey of India does the annual maintenance. but still it is, totally into ruins, her grave. So can you imagine how popular she was, that people used to visit her grave, and very often, and at that time it became like a pilgrimage center. So many people used to visit her grave and pay their respects. So you can just make out that what type of a figure she was.
Well, as usual, it is so interesting to talk to you and discuss such a important profile of Delhi Sultan, Razia Sultan. And we'll be meeting again and discuss more about Delhi Sultanate rulers. And till then, bye bye and you take care.
Thank you, Kanchi.
Morning, everybody, and welcome to another little version of our little insight with tomorrow's leaders. And today we've got Chandrasen, who is going to give us a nice wave. Give us a wave, Chandrasen. Nice big wave and a smile. There we go. Fantastic. And a big smile. Yeah, we're going to get a smile going through. And what today we're going to be talking about is robotics. So, Chandrasen, this is over to you. What is it about robotics that you get excited about?
I get excited by fixing the parts of the robot.
By fixing it, so manufacturing it. And do you
Yes.
follow a plan, or do you create your own plan?
I follow the plan.
You follow the plan. Well, that's a message for everybody. And when you follow the plan, does it always work?
Not every time.
Okay, not every time. So when it does work, how do you feel?
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay. Jolly good. Well, come on then. Tell me about robotics. What have you built recently?
I'll just build a robot. Name the wheelbot.
Okay, and can we see a picture of this robot that you've built?
Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen.
Okay, here it comes. Brilliant.
This is the main body of the robot. It has all the gears and machinery in it. I'll just take out the wheel to show it to you. As you can see.
Oh, right. The wheels just click off.
As you can see.
Excellent. And I can see it's got, so that's one of the big wheels. Yeah.
It has three to four gears with a motor. The motor is powered by a solar panel, which is over
Where's
here.
you show the solar panel? The solar
Yeah.
panel's there. Well, it's on the top, so that's obviously where the solar panel is going to be.
When we keep it in the sunlight, it gets powered.
And those wires that are coming out, is that the feed from the solar panel?
Yeah. This is negative and this is positive, which transfers energy to the motor, and the gear system move the wheels.
Okay, and you talk about a gear system. So this is, you know, for the very professional people, we've got a power to weight ratio here. So this looks quite a light robot. Does it move very fast when it's ready?
No, it's medium speed.
Medium
It's
speed.
not. It's not fast. It's not slow.
Okay. And do you have a remote control with it, or is that something to be done in the future?
No.
There's something to be done in the future.
Yes, it
So how long did it take you to build this robot?
2 to 3 days.
And what was the most exciting part about building the robot?
Building the central body of it.
Building the central body. Was that quite detailed? Was that quite intricate?
Yeah,
Did it fall apart a few times before you put it together?
yeah, three to 4 times it happened.
3 to 4 times, but you persevered with it. So you had patience.
Yes.
Did it annoy you when it fell apart?
No.
You just decided to put it back together again, and next time it's going to work.
Yeah.
Jolly good. And what part of it was the real exciting part? So you said you like putting it together and physically following the plan. But what time did you have the biggest smile on your face?
When everything was apart.
When everything was apart? What, all the little bits? Or when it was put together?
Yeah.
So when it was put together, that was the biggest smile on your face.
Yeah, it was.
So when it actually was it when it started to work? When you started to see it move?
Yeah, that was the exciting part.
So explain to me when it starts, when you've literally put that last piece together. Just explain to me what you did and how you felt.
I just put the wheels together. I felt very nice.
And when you put, so were the wheels the last thing you put into the robot?
It's the small wheels.
Just the small wheels at the back. Okay, so you had the big wheels on and the small wheels at the back. And it was in your hand. And what did you do then? So you must have been pushing it with your hand.
Yeah.
So what did you do then? Were you scared it might not work? Were you excited? Where did you take it to make it work?
I just read the book.
Okay, so you read the book and you've got this little robot in your hand, but how did you know it was going to work? Where did you actually go to make it work? Because you needed sunlight to charge the solar panel.
Yeah, I just went to my balcony and it started working.
Were the wheels turning in your hand, or did you put it on the floor and then the wheels start to turn?
When I put it on the floor,
And when you're on your balcony, were you worried it might actually fall off the balcony?
no, I was not.
No. Okay. And when it started to work on the balcony, Were you on your own, or was someone else with you?
On my own.
On your own. Did you go on your own because you wanted to see it for yourself first?
Yes.
And how did it make you feel when you saw that?
Very exciting.
Really exciting. Did you jump up and down?
No.
Did you smile?
Of course I did.
Of course you did. Okay, well, put the smile on your face that you did when that started to work. Let's see how big that smile was. Well, that's not a very big smile, is it? But how big a smile was it?
Like this.
Okay, almost. Were you punching in the air to say, yeah, it works?
No, I was not.
No? Oh, well, next time you do that, try that and see if you feel any better. Okay? Because, I mean, 2 days' work is a long time, isn't it? So 2 days focus, 2 days patience, putting it all together. Were you thinking about it not working?
No.
Yeah, so you knew it was going to work.
Yeah, I know it was going to work.
You knew it was going to work. So you had faith in what you'd done, what you'd put together.
Yeah. I'm working on my second project. It's the boat. As you can see,
Yeah, we can see that.
we can just take out the central body and fix it here, and take out the wheels and put propellers over here in the boat. It will start working.
Excellent. So what you've got is you've got a central control system, as we would call it, and that's got multiple uses. So it's got one use in one arena, and it's got another similar use in a different arena.
Yeah.
So how are you going to create the propulsion? You mentioned propellers. Have you got a propeller you can show us? Or have you got to make that?
It's not with me right now. I
Okay.
can't not right now.
So you've got to make that propeller.
Yeah.
Are you going to make that from a kit like you've made those wheels?
Yeah.
Excellent. And is that's the part that you really like, is it? What is it about creating things that you like? What gives you that? Why is it so exciting when you create things?
Because it's the last part of it.
And what about the plans? Do you really look at those plans all the way through, or do you just pick up the plans and just do it?
I just read the plans and then do it.
Okay. And how many times do you read the plans?
2 to 3 times.
2 to 3 times. Why do you read it 2 to 3 times?
If I have any mistake, I can correct it.
So you do it so that you can just make sure that you've got it right in your mind, so you know how things are going to go.
Yes.
And what is it about the plans? Would you like to create plans when you get older, to make the plans?
No.
No, you don't want to make the plans. You want to stick to making the robot themselves, do you?
Yes.
And if you've got a boat, which is your next project,
Yeah.
what project would be after that one?
I will make a motorcycle.
A motorcycle. Okay. So we've gone to a robot with 4 wheels, to a boat with a propeller, to a motorcycle with 2 wheels.
Yeah.
And how a motorcycle, you know, with a robot that's got 4 wheels, it's very stable because 4 wheels sit on the ground. How are you going to make your motorcycle be stable?
I will put 3 wheels in it.
3 wheels. Oh, that's a smart move. So, how's that? How will it look like? Just try and explain to everybody how that motorcycle will look like.
It has 3 wheels in back and 1 wheel in front.
Oh, so 4 wheels. You're going to put 3 wheels at the back and 1 wheel at the front.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be very stable, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be very stable.
And do you think it will go faster than your first robot?
No.
Why is that then? Why don't you think it will go faster?
Because this has only 4 wheels. It will be 3 wheels to balance it. It will not balance. So I will take more time to do it.
Okay. And you're going to use the same power source?
Yeah.
That's probably why it won't go any faster then. Because you're using the same power. Have you thought about increasing the power? What would you do to increase the power?
I'll just keep 2 solar panels.
2 solar panels. And what will 2 solar panels do to your power?
It will create much energy with, and it will have 2 motors.
So will you get twice the power, do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what they call a linear relationship. Have you heard of a linear relationship?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you've learned something new today. If I do one thing this way and then I double it, I get twice as much. So it's a linear relationship. If I put 3 times as many, what happens?
It's 3 times the energy.
3 times the energy, exactly. So it's linear. And they also call it modular. So you learned a few new words today that perhaps weren't on your plans and in your vocabulary. So when this idea about robotics started, do you want to use this experience that you're finding now? Would you like to make a career, do it in the future when you get older?
No,
No. So what would you like to be doing in the future?
I will like to do a computeristic.
So computer development. And do you see this robotics as being a good step for that?
Yeah.
Well, it's been really exciting talking with you today. What one thing would you say to young people that are watching out there about what they should be doing?
They should build robots.
And what would that help them do?
It will help them to, in the future, they will help them to make robots.
So it's good to get the mind thinking about creating robots, because in the future we're all going to have robots, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, robots are going to be doing everything for us, hopefully. Well, good luck with your next project, with your boat. And once you finish that, perhaps we can have another discussion about what it was about your boat.
Yes, sir. I will let you know.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, we're going to say goodbye to everybody today. And we say
Bye.
goodbye with a big smile. Big smile?
Bye.
Punch the air? Yeah. Okay. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Hello friends, this is Chandra from Akulmach Technologies. Welcome to Tobras. Today we have a very distinguished guest on our show. Her name is Leslie Rubin. She is very well known in the startup, in the CXO fraternity, and she joins us from San Francisco today. Welcome to the show, Leslie.
Hi, CK. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm pleased to be here.
Yeah, it is our pleasure, and I think it's a few years that we have spoken. But I think, look, you know what the lockdown has done, and you know we are talking to each other after a few years.
I love it. I love being able to reconnect with people during this time. Great opportunity to do so.
Right. So we are on day 14 today, and India is under total lockdown. And as you know, India is a big population, so there are uh, you know some issues going on with the control and supply chain, etc. How does
Yeah.
that look like in San Francisco?
Sure. So we're in day, I don't know by day, but this is our third week in this shelter in place in California. People are pretty good as far as adhering to it. I think most of us are trying to get outside and exercise when we can, maintaining our physical and social distance as required. It's been difficult, but I will say from a business perspective, it's really been a great opportunity, and happy to share more on that.
This is perfect. I think the more important aspect in order to control the pandemic is to follow the law, follow the process. Tell me, Leslie, you have been in the industry for almost 2 decades. You had vast experience working with very large corporations and also with some of the very popular names in the industry. Do you see any downturn in the business sentiments?
Well, I would say more than anything, CK, that businesses are trying to adjust day to day. So I am following the stock market. I do listen to a couple of different market watch podcast or listen to podcasts as well as watch some live videos that are coming through on LinkedIn. I would say that the companies that I've worked really closely with, SAP, Cisco, Oracle, are all trying to shift and do business in this new business climate. I'm not going with a new business, this is new normal, because this is the new right now. Our business climate is going through a universal shift. Our planet is going through a universal shift. So we're all trying to adjust to what it's like day to day. We've all got strategic visions within the corporations, within our own businesses, and we're trying to keep that as a North Star, but we're needing to adjust to what that might look like day to day. The better part of it, and the guidance that I think I'm sticking to and that I'm seeing most of my clients adhere to, is really checking in with their clients, checking in with people on their teams, and really trying to maintain that connection while still trying to do sales and adhere to what the investors are looking for. But I think the market right now is giving a little bit of leeway to those companies that are pretty high profile, because they see them as bellwether and being able to set the pace for what this might look like when we come out of it. So people are really just, what are we doing day to day, but still trying to maintain that North Star and their vision and strategy. So continuing to look forward as much as they can.
So this lockdown has given a new opportunity for your business in particular, I guess.
It has, and I would say that I authored a book a couple of years ago on. Let me grab that. I authored a book called Meaning, and this was a book written focused on how leaders communicate during opportunity and crisis. So we interviewed 10 to 12 different really amazing executives and leaders, and they were able to share what it was like for them on introducing new things into their business, letting people know that, yeah, we're in a situation right now, but how to maintain focus. And it was a pleasure to do it, but it was my business as a whole, as far as strategic and executive communications, has been busy because people are trying to figure out, how do we maintain our message? How do we put out a different message? How do we keep our teams calm and focused?
Great. I think this situation that the world is dealing with right now will open up the new avenues. It will open up the new ways of doing things. I think you are doing a great job. Your company is
Thank you.
leading from the front.
Yeah, I hope so. I do think this is a new opportunity for everyone. Some of the core things that I'm giving to my clients, as well as to people that I'm mentoring, excuse me, are being able to be comfortable with ambiguity. We don't have all the information right now. Every day is different, and day to day, we just have to deal with what we have. The second point is, people will really remember what we're like as leaders in this time. So if we're maintaining our calm, if we're maintaining our focus, people will remember that. And then third, this is an opportunity for all of us to look at this as maybe a growth phase and developmental phase. So what are we doing differently? Having some fun in this? Are we taking a different type of an online class, a master's class on learning to cook? Are we doing something different to enhance our brand? Are we taking a brand, personal brand building class? So really looking at this as a different opportunity, and knowing that we will come out of it. We will be different as people. We'll be different as a world.
I think I get a very profound message of what you're talking. I think it's a time for all of us to look back and recollect ourselves and see where we are going, re-strategize ourselves, re-strategize our team. I think your message is very profound. Now, having said this, I have one more question.
Sure.
The question is regarding the non-virtual world. Some of the business can transition to the virtual platforms, but then there are many businesses like manufacturing, farming, and likes of those which cannot become virtual. So, do you see, or you have an opinion on what the governments of various countries should do after this pandemic is in control to revive the business sentiments?
Well, I can't speak for what the governments might do, but I do have clients that I speak to. I'll use a company like John Deere. There are clients like Genentech. There are others like Bayer, and currently they are essential businesses. So they're going to be the examples of what companies should do coming out of this. So the examples might be, fewer people are going into the workplace right now, but they're still keeping the processes rolling because they have to, and we rely on those businesses. I talked a little bit earlier about opportunity. Companies may need to shift their business strategy. Look at a company like Gap or Banana Republic or other designers. They're needing to look at how they can supply for the medical industry when there's shortages of masks. So I kind of shift that question back to, there are companies that will maintain what they're doing now, and they'll have to change some of the processes to continue to be successful, continue to have people come into the office and work. And then there are other companies who will need to look at, what is our business approach? How can we be significant in this current climate? And maybe supply things differently. You know, instead of making denim jeans, I may be able to have to make surgical clothing or surgical masks. So, you know, there's the companies that are keep on moving and doing their thing because they're essential businesses, and then there are those that will have to shift their business strategy to help now and potentially into the future to maintain relevance.
I think your words of wisdom are very important. And I think there are a lot of people who are trying to do this, what you're saying. And in fact, your company, which is called Image Matters, is also working with some of these leaders and some of these large organizations to steer in the right direction. But then I see every day there are a lot of other people who are finding it tough to adjust. And I think there will be a huge learning curve for them. So I personally believe that your company and yourself as a leader can bring a lot of difference.
Thank you on that. I really appreciate the recognition. And my company, Image Matters Advisors, we do work with C-level executives as well as companies to help them with their strategic communication platforms. And right now is the best time to readjust or to develop new messaging and helping those people that are having difficulty with the work from home or the shelter in place. And it is difficult for people who aren't used to being separate from their office, or not just walking down the hall and having that water cooler conversation. So every company is needing to readjust how they're effectively talking to their employees, be it video, be it virtual cocktail sessions or virtual check-ins and parties. I know a couple of different companies that are doing weekly themed parties. So having some fun with this, as well as business is not as usual right now, and really recognizing that and checking in with your employees is truly important. Maintaining that connection in a different way.
Leslie, it has been my greatest pleasure talking to you, even though it was few years of gap, because I think we were doing different things in different part of the world. But I really feel happy to reconnect with you, and I wish you all the best. Have success in life, work, recreate the history as you're doing it already. And we will find another opportunity very soon to talk to you.
We will. CK, thank you so much for having me on, and all the best to you, and be safe and healthy. And I know we'll connect again. It's like we hadn't spoken in years, but picked up where we left off. So I appreciate that. And thank you to all the people who are listening to this. And please feel free to connect with me via my website. Information at Image Matters Advisors is an email address you can use. Matters, Matterz. So I welcome the questions and inquiries. So thank you again, CK.
Thank you, Leslie. Bye-bye for today.
All the best. All the best to you. Thank you.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach, and in today's edition of Spotlight, I'm very thrilled and honored to have Mr. Jeremy Blaine joining us from UK. And topic of our discussion today is the upheaval that we have seen past 15 days across the world, especially about the free digital media. So, to discuss this further, let me invite my friend from UK, Mr. Jeremy Blaine.
Thank you very much for having me again, CK. Pleasure to be here.
Right, Jeremy. So, the first government which bite the bullet was the Australian government. And they have been, we have been hearing a lot in the news that they were loggerhead with the likes of Google and Facebook about the advertising credits. So I think we will come to that in a bit. And that, by the way, is the major portion of our discussion today. But lots have happened in France. There are new regulations in France. EU is also going to come out with a new regulation. After the Capitol Hill, there are a lot of debates going on in US, how the swing for Biden happened because of Wall Street Post handle was blocked for a week by Twitter, and that created a swing in favor of Biden by 13%. So there is a lot of debate which is locally happening. There was an influence on the presidential election. But let me update you what has happened in India in last 5 days. India has come out with a new, not a law, it's a ruling basically. We already have a IT Act, which is a law. So there is a certain section of IT Act has been modified, and there are new rules inserted to manage the digital media. And while it is not a law, so the digital media still remains free in India. However, they have added few small things, few small steps from their point of view. But for implementation, these are very large. This has very large implications on the social media platform. Number one being, you have to have a compliance officer posted in India. Now, this person who is a compliance officer must know the Indian laws. So he cannot be somebody who's just, as a filler. He has to be somebody of a repute. Number two, there could be instances where, a normal person may have a objection. Some morphed picture has been used, or a clipping of video has been used by somebody to create a narrative or a fake news, whatever you call it. So to prevent that, there has to be a grievance cell headed by a grievance officer locally present in India. And number three is, whenever government asks for the handle details, I mean, who started the mischievous post, those details must be shared with the government. And the social media platforms cannot hide behind the curtain of privacy laws or privacy use policy that they have. Now, the number four thing, which is sort of an umbrella, Indian government, unlike the Australian government, they have included the social media platforms and also the OTT platform, because from government point of view, a lot of unwanted things are happening on Netflix and Prime and those kind of platforms as well. So the law or the new rule has been changed to encompass the entire social and digital platforms and media. So I think this is something new. uh, I'm sure as a business, people like Facebook, Google, Twitter will have to make major changes in their legal framework and use policies. And also with Australia, where there is an arbitration. So I think you can talk more about it. So over to you, Jeremy.
Yeah, well, it's a very interesting point, isn't it, CK? And it does stem from the increase of power that many of these media outlets, social outlets, digital outlets have, and the unfiltered stream of news, be it fake, be it part truths, be it full truths. So be it in the public interest or outside of the public interest. And I think that actually is really at the heart of it, is public interest journalism and what is in the public interest, and the power that comes from some of these mainstream medias that are able to do, as you said, with the election in the US, and how Trump before Biden had used that, and is continuing to use it even though he's banned, just shows you the frightening power and the sense of influence that it can have on others. And that's really at the core of probably, before everybody else, it is going through Parliament in Australia, and they're saying, look, it goes into, first of all, the public interest and public interest journalism. So a way to start to manage the news that is filtered through, but also critically, it's about the use of data. And we know that Google and Facebook and other big platforms like that, are building a business on data and selling data or selling information and insight through that data to drive advertising revenues, to drive very specific and personalized content to people. I'll be looking on the screen here. I'll be shopping for, I don't know, I'll be shopping for some running shoes, let's say, for example, and all of a sudden, like an hour later, I'm seeing adverts for no apparent reason, I'm thinking in my head, for running shoes for other sites. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, that's coincidence, I was just looking, so let me click on that. The power and the influence that is there is key. Now that data is being sold, or if you like, that power of data is being sold by these social platforms to all of their customers as a way of getting direct marketing, personalized marketing, and for paying for brands or for individuals to raise their profile. So the point being is that as they are getting all of this data from different sites, like news sites, particularly Australia is around sort of the news sites, they're using journalism that has been, you know, kind of fair journalism that has been done, bringing it into their own sites and news sites and just displaying that, but they're not paying for it. And yet, on the flip side, they understand the power of data and the fact that it's worth something. And so while there, interestingly enough, was, you know, quite a lot of noise, of course, by particularly Google and Facebook in Australia about this, in the background, there's a lot now going on around making individual deals with news channels, newspaper organizations in Australia, to pay them a certain amount to recognize the data, i.e. the journalism that's coming, and then provide and grant usage for that. But that comes, I think, very similar. It doesn't go as far as what you're describing in India, as far as making sure that, you know, there is compliance, there is fair grievance, and there is protection of people that they're gathering the news from. But what they're talking about in Australia is the measurement behind this is making sure that the pay, that what the journalists and the media organizations are being paid is being used to create public interest stories and news, rather than sensation that can be sold. So misuse of what they're now being paid, you know, for the benefit of, let's say, the shareholders, or to actually fuel more populist news and going more into the public interest. So that's one step. But I think from what India are doing, and certainly what the EU is thinking about, is making it a little bit more robust. A part of, for example, in the EU, making it, you know, bolting bits of the GDPR, you know, the data protection elements into that, making sure that there is due process for every citizen of the European Union, and then individual countries there also thinking about what is their country legislation, because we then need to negotiate separately with these big organizations, social, to get our own deals, because of course we've got our own free press in these organizations, let's say in media outlets. So there's lots of things happening in the background here, but it's necessary because it's all around, you know, paying for due data, which they're doing, and making sure that it's regulated now, because we see the power of misuse as well.
So, Jeremy, you know, while I fully agree with you what you are saying and what the various governments are doing, don't you think that this is going away from the free press, free media, free digital media norms? Because essentially all these platforms runs on the data produced by guys like you and me. I mean, there are 1.5 billion people producing different types of informative or even nonsensical, sometimes, you know, TikTok kind of videos. But, you know, that is driving the whole the digital strategy of the world today. So if you start controlling that, are we not moving away from the right to speech clauses in the constitution of various countries?
Right, it depends on the country, though, you see, because I think, and it's also a fine line between traditional media, like the fourth estate, you know, the traditional media and journalism on the right hand side, and all of us as individuals who are driving data, and actually are delighted when when sites pick it up and say, oh, we're going to run with your story, because it gives us a sense of, you know, it gives us an image, it gives us a brand, it gives us coverage, you know, if we're in business, or it gives us notoriety or popularity or celebrity, you know, until it goes wrong. So actually, even that sort of freedom comes with something that we like and don't like. We like to pick and choose, don't we, as individuals? It's like, it's all very well if I'm getting, look at all this great coverage that I'm getting, look at the TikTok video of me, kind of skateboarding with a drink and, playing Fleetwood Mac in the background and getting loads of views and suddenly getting a lot from it. However, when that's flipped and that's used for negative press, then there is a huge outcry based on that again. Or there's a lot of then the word that I've got to use is hatred. There's a lot of naysayers that are doing that, that go onto it and troll and follow these people. So you can't just cherry pick, even as individuals, the bits that we like and then complain about the bits that we don't like. Either we accept that we need to have some better policing and some better regulation about it, which I totally agree we do. But it also needs to come with some level of protection, because we've seen the power of fake news, and we continue to see the power of fake news and what it drives, and the acceptability of fake news. And where is this taking us, as not just as individuals, but as a human race? It's like, there's so much kind of information that is unfiltered now, ideas. I just think we need a filter. And I think if this takes us partway through a filter, because the platforms that provide us this are having to now pay for selected content, to provide then, more of a public service and responsible public service, then I think that can only be a good thing. The problem will come, CK, and I agree with this, is that some countries will use that, perhaps some more authoritarian governments, or some where they feel that they need more control, over this area, where they might feel they can make some money out of it, may use it for nefarious purposes. And I think that's the risk. So it's full of potholes, full of challenges, as well as the opportunities and the benefits that it can bring. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because of course in Australia this is going to take months to get through, a full year then to measure and to kind of figure out what's really happened. And in the meantime, lots of other countries are going to be making their own rules and regulations. However, I do think it's a very interesting and right perspective to have, is that ultimately that big platforms who are taking data from different people to use to drive popularity to their sites and to drive viewership to their sites, like TikTok, for example, pay for that data that's doing it. Why shouldn't they?
Well, that's the whole point, because people like you and me will make quality content, but we are not differentiated by the platforms in either way. It's a number game, and the threshold for making money has been kept so high, it is not achievable unless you make a very sensational content. And that is where the trap is, because most of the people either make some nonsensical sensationalize the video, or make a fake news, which is again creating sensations. So for those people, the thresholds are crossed and they started getting these peanuts. I think the Australian government, as a layman, I will just explain what I feel as a layman, that if you compare the digital media and with the traditional media, most of the traditional media was run by the ad agencies, because the media is actually making money by advertising. And if you look at the ad agencies, they will collect all the advertisers and publish on different media houses like print, TV, or whatever. And the pandemic actually changed the whole thing. The media, and including news, migrated to the digital platforms, and therefore the advertisers also shifted to the platforms, leaving behind the traditional digital media high and dry. And I think that is what the trigger of the decision made by Australian government, because now suddenly some of these influential people who are well known, and like guys like Rupert Murdoch, which is very big in Australia. My question again, I have given this all background because don't you think that the government may be under influence of these media moguls and trying to create a control on digital platforms?
Well, I think there's a balance, though. I think that's right. But I mean, ultimately, it's about, the question is journalism properly funded? Because what we've seen, exactly as you say it, what we've seen is that as the digital agencies and large digital companies have come in, they've taken the big chunk of the advertising revenue away from the traditional media, and yet they're using the data from the traditional media to do so. So yes, there will always be the big conglomerates and news organizations which will have their own self-interest at heart, and we've seen that. We see how that plays out, and the power of and the decisions that they make around that. Look at Fox News as part of that, that kind of empire in the US, for example, and how that continues to drive a very different narrative, through there. And there's a rise also of, the problem is there's a rise of news organizations apart from traditional media that are now growing up. Here in the UK, there's two new news channels that have been raised. But the fear is that they become more right wing and more nationalist and more protectionist in their focus. So the fact is that you've got traditional media, you've got the digital giants, and then you've got this new pocket that is feeding on the fuel and the need and for sensationalism. And I think it's got into a real mess. And so if it, for me, this is why I think that while there's lots of different nuance in this, it can only be a good thing that responsible government and responsible legislation is looking at this to think, how can this be made a fairer process, so we protect the right and just journalism and public interest journalism, at the same time as recognizing that there are things out of our control around the sensationalism, the fake news and whatever. But if we can actually shore up traditional journalism and those that are still standing up for the free press, and responsible journalism that is in the public interest and for the public interest, then we will always retain the balance. Otherwise, the danger and the risk here is that traditional journalism and traditional media companies are just going to lose out, and then the power is in the hands of even fewer, who have self-interest at heart and who are using data in a really powerful, questionable way that we've seen, more recently, and that will continue to manipulate, not just in a positive way, but also potentially in a negative way, what news is filtered to certain people and how people view news. So I think we need that balance, and in order to get that balance, we need some level of protection for the traditional media and press.
There is one more issue, Jeremy. Any production costs money, any good production, because you need, script writers, you need a crew, and you need editors and stuff like that. And all of that cost money. So if you look at the traditional media, that money is paid for because there is an input and there is an output. And the advertisers basically pay per second, and this usually the advertising credits are pretty high. Um, Unlike the digital media where the platforms get the content for free. Absolutely, I mean, they have created a platform, they spend a lot of decades in building it up, that is given for sure. But in order to make money on the platform, there is no incentive for a quality production house, because the cost is theirs. And after incurring all this cost, when they bring their digital content to the platform, there is no money back. And when the advertisers are paying these platforms, the return or ROI to the production houses is like 2% or even lesser. So what people get out of digital platforms as advertising credit is kind of very low today. So I think there has to be some regulation around that also, because they have kept the thresholds of monetization so high, which are not achievable if you just follow the traditional method. And hence it promotes sort of fake news. What is your opinion on this?
Well, yes, I do. I mean, I think that's the case. I think this whole, this kind of unfiltered deluge that we can get, that is, because it essentially, anybody now in the world, the billions of people in the world can be a journalist, or can send something that suddenly becomes viral that they will pick up and use on these platforms, and they want to do that so that they can curate a lot of that free news that's around there. But what's quite interesting is that there is a recognition, even though, from these big giants, that there is a need to filter this down, particularly the more reputable ones, like Google and Facebook, that want to be seen to be doing the right things, while in the background making sure that their algorithms are absolutely evolving at the rate that they have been evolving at, so that they can go to the people that are advertising with them and say, here is the data that we can give you that will give you exactly what you need for your target audience. But the fact that Google in Australia, for example, kind of stepped back from the edge, and launched its news showcase product early, well, just last month actually, and has started to discuss this, and actually done a deal with Seven West Media already in Australia, which is it's not been confirmed, but it's been reported to be around a 30 million a year deal. And what the traditional media is saying, this is fair payment for responsible journalism. So I think what even these big giants are saying is that they need to have some level of credibility behind this, as well as the fun stuff that can be there too. But also there is a price tag for it, and they also need to do some cleaning up of their own backyard, and probably rebrand and relaunch this. And then on the back of that, they're almost kind of sort of it's sort of reinventing it. So yes, it's kind of got to a stage where it is now. But I'm glad to say that they're actually taking a step back and saying, this is an opportunity for us to relaunch how we do this, how we use individualized content, how we use traditional journalism and so on, and how we recognize, the data that is coming into us, but how we can also use that to then sell to our customers in a way that some of them will be more comfortable with, potentially.
But will that solve the problem of production getting enough revenue out of it? For example, if I have to cover a story, let's say right now my channel is based on interviews, but if I have to take an interview of a big shot who's sitting in Chennai, and I have to send a person there, but there is no incentive for me to send a person or travel myself, because there is no revenue being generated. Will it solve the problem of the content producers? Because what will happen is that the digital platforms will strike a deal with large houses, and that may happen in India also. The largest one here is Bennett and Coleman. So the chances are the Bennett and Coleman will have the inside deal going on with the large houses like Google and Facebook. So they will have their deal. What will happen to the actual content providers on these digital platforms? How they will get compensated?
Yeah, but it's a good question, and this is not a solution. This is the almost like kind of the beginning of the journey down here, because this will set a precedent that talks about insightful and responsible content is worth something. So therefore, if you think about the gig economy, for example, small medium enterprise that you and I both both very passionate about, experts. I know you and I and a lot of my colleagues, we write a lot, we do a lot of research, and we put it out there. And at the moment, we're kind of putting it out there. Either we're trying to sell it on our own platforms, or we're putting it out there for free to gain, gain mentions, or to gain an audience behind it. But there will come a time, and I think what it takes, though, is a collective rather than individual approach. So, as the gig economy becomes a much bigger part of even our, traditional organizations, is that what are the bodies that are standing up and saying that? What are the federations of businesses? What are the federations of freelancers who are standing up and who are saying we are standing up for our members who have an income from the gig economy who drive value from here, and who should be recognized in some way for what they produce and how they do it. And that might not be exactly it might not be, for example, financial remuneration. It could be coverage. It could be putting them on a platform. It doesn't need to be monetary, but it needs to be recognized in terms of value. So I think this is the beginning of the journey, and that has to start more or less, at some of these big corporations. It's starting at government level, and then it will filter down, because a lot of these bodies will then move up the line, ask questions like you're asking to government, saying, but what about us small businesses? What about us entrepreneurs? What about us gurus and experts who are doing all this research? And, it's being kind of used out there. What about us?
Absolutely. I think this is a big question, because all the digital platforms like Facebook, which are the large ones, and Google, which is YouTube, is getting all the content from people like you and me, and maybe many senior people who are producing this content, not getting compensated for their knowledge and their efforts. So I think that is a big question. We don't have an answer for it right now. The good thing is that the Indian government has given 3 months time. They have laid out the rulings, and it's all public information, and they said that, hey, you get your act together. I'm sure they have started negotiating with the Indian government right now. So we will see. We will come back on the same subject maybe after 3 months again. Uh, but I think you have put the things in right perspective, because you have a global, outlook. You work with Australian companies, and you know what is going on there. You also know what is going on in UK and countries like India. So thank you very much for joining us today, and for your wisdom and for your suggestions.
Thank you, CK. See you next time.
See you next time, Jeremy, and take care. And wish you all the best for your ventures and your research which you are doing.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmach Live. And in this series of understanding grapho analysis, grapho therapy, we are actually having discussion with Naveen Toshniwal for past couple of weeks. And today we want to discuss yet again with Naveen, and he will tell us something very interesting. So without further ado, let's welcome him.
हेलो कैसे हैं आप
Welcome to the show, Naveen. We are all fine and hope you're taking care, because I think yellow alert has been announced in North India because of the cold wave. Hope things are fine at Jaipur as well.
Yeah, it's all fine. And in fact, we are used to this cold at this time of the season. So it's perfectly fine. We are prepared. We are having mufflers and sweaters. So it's fine.
Great. I think your subject of grapho analysis has really, triggered the interest level of our viewers. And I think today you want to tell us something very, very interesting, specifically regarding one particular letter. So over to you, Naveen. All ears. We want to hear what you want to tell us today.
Yeah, I think in last couple of sessions, I had told you about the slant of the handwriting, and probably the upper loops, lower loops, and A's and O's, and the way you are writing M's and N's. I think we have discussed this in the earlier episodes. Now, T is one of the very important letters in handwriting analysis. And in fact, the book from where I've read, it has got 3 chapters on T. So, of course, I will briefly show you in the chart what various types of T will mean. See, now here, this is a normal T. I hope you can see it. And this T bar is crossing the T stem. And this T bar is slightly on the higher side. So this sort of T bar, which is closer towards the top, but not going above the stem, this shows people who are ambitious and they have a well-defined long-term goal. This T-bar is going above the stem. This indicates people who are actually overthinkers. They think too much, and the actions to achieve their thinking is not there. They will go on thinking, I'll do this, I should do this, but that is all in thought. They will practically not do anything to achieve it. Now here you see a T-bar is going low. This sort of low T-bar indicates people who are lacking confidence or who have self-doubt. These people, they might be having difficulty in trying to initiate something. Even if they are trying to initiate, they may get self-doubt and they might leave the task in between. Now, this T stem, you will see it has got a sort of inverted V formation. This indicates people who are stubborn, jiddi. They are a difficult nut to crack. Now here the T-bar is going to the right of the stem. This indicates people who have short temper. Here the T-bar is going to the left of the stem. This indicates people who have procrastination, habit of keeping things pending or delaying decisions. Now here you see there is a T-bar which has got a hook. This hook indicates people who have got jealousy or they have got some sort of greed in them. So it's not a good stroke. Now here the T-bar is starting thick and finishing in a point. This sort of T-bar indicates people who are sarcastic. They have sarcasm in them. The T-bar with a down slant indicates people who are dominating. They have tendency to dominate. A T-bar slanting up indicates people who are optimistic, positive thinkers. Okay, now let's come to the next line. Here you will see the T-bar is hardly visible. It's very, very small. It's almost like a dot, the T-bar. This indicates people who are lacking willpower. They are not able to exactly give themselves a push to do something. Now this one is having a curved T-bar, convex if you look, concave if you look from the top, and this T-bar is having a concave shape. It is a curved T-bar. This sort of curved T-bar indicates people who have got good self-control. Now self-control can be related to small things like, I want to do this, or if you've got diabetes, I should avoid sweets. If you've got like BP, you should avoid salt. And it may also indicate more important things like, suppose you realize that you have some negative traits in you, which you are consciously trying to get over. That is also a good sign of self-control. Now here the T-bar is having a wave sort of formation. This indicates people who have a good sense of humor.
Yes, I think there are a lot of lot of variation in tea, and that determines how difficult it is to understand the character of the person. And there are 24.
Sorry, there was a slight disconnection. Sorry, there was a slight disconnection. So now I'm back. Okay. So this sort of initial long stroke over here, this indicates people who have got resentment. They resent some old episodes which they are not able to get over or forget. Now, this is a T-bar where a T-bar and T-stem are joined together. See, these are two examples where the T-stem and T-bar are joined. This is a positive stroke. This indicates people who are persistent. They will not leave anything if they start it. They will leave it only after they are able to finish the assignment. Now, another thing is you have a short T bar and a long, short T stem and a long T stem. A short T stem indicates people who are independent. They are not bothered. People, they know exactly what they are doing. They are not dependent on others. A long T bar indicates people who have vanity or pride. So it may tend to be a negative stroke if there is too much of it. So these are some various varieties of T's which we find in the handwriting. And as I told you earlier, it is the repetition of the strokes which carry the most important value. The particular strokes which are repeated more number of times, that particular trait has a more prominence in your characteristics. So I hope this will give you some idea the importance of T in the various ways the T's can be written.
Well, Naveenji, it is so amazing to even hear from you about just one alphabet, which is T. And there are 24 in English language, and there could be, I mean, if you look at other languages, there are more alphabets. So it could be very, very complicated, to understand the character of the person looking at the handwriting. Because if you look at combination itself using the formula of probability, it could be millions of combinations which will then filter down into a character of the person, isn't it, Naveen?
Yeah, it is. No doubt it is complicated. It's a very not so easy to learn science, but then again, it is very accurate. And after so much knowledge gaining and experience, it is quite easy for me now. But as you rightly said, if for a beginner, it will not be so easy to understand. It takes time because it's a vast subject. And whatever we are discussing here is maybe just 2 or 3% of this subject. And even today, I am also learning. There are many strokes, weird strokes, which I see in the handwriting, which I am not able to understand. So I have to try and analyze what that stroke means. And I also know someone in America who is an expert in this field. I have to consult him also that please guide me what this particular stroke means. So learning, as I told you, is a lifelong process.
Certainly, Naveen. In fact, you were also mentioning about the therapy because having identified certain negative traits, you can then help people to overcome those negative traits. So I think we don't want to talk too much about it. We will have that area covered about, especially about therapy in the next session, which is next Monday. But you can tell us how actually it works so that our viewers know that. Even if some negative traits they have which they were not aware and handwriting is telling them, those can be corrected, those can be rectified. A few words from you, Naveen.
Yeah, see, actually therapy is a very proven part of graphoanalysis and graphotherapy. If you do it sincerely, you just have to devote about 5 minutes a day for 3 weeks. Practice the stroke changes and you will yourself be able to see or witness the change in yourself within a small duration of this 3 weeks. But remember, therapy is something which is always individualistic. Same therapy cannot be applied for everyone. If someone lacks willpower, the therapy for willpower has to be given. If someone is having short temper, the therapy for that stroke has to be given. Someone lacking self-confidence, another stroke has to be changed. So it all depends on what therapy is applicable for particular people. Accordingly, the therapy is given to them.
Certainly, Naveen, I think it was a very interesting session we had today to understand implications of how do you write T and what it means when it talks about your character. It was very, very interesting. But I think in the next session, we will know a little bit more about the therapy, how therapy is given. And like you very briefly told that it's a 3 weeks program, but then is it permanent, not permanent? We will discuss all of that in the next session, Naveen. Thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you again in the new year or maybe before that?
Yeah, let's hope so. Actually, next week I would be traveling, so I will let you know whether we'll be able to do it next week. Otherwise, week after next is for sure.
So enjoy your holidays. Merry Christmas to you, and wish you all the success in your endeavor towards which you are heading to. And I will catch up with you next Monday. I mean, it was always a pleasure to talk to you.
My pleasure too. Thank you so much.
Good morning and welcome to Akulmach Live, friends. Yesterday there has been a major test done by DRDO, and it's about a guided bomb completely indigenously developed by India. It is a very big deal, and we will analyze on our program today why we need indigenous technology for our safety, security, for our military services, and how this long range guided bomb works. So stay tuned, friends, till the end, and I will tell you exactly why it is so important. So if you know, the Air Force of India is the fourth largest air force in the world. It's a very big, potent power where Indian Air Force has to achieve the air supremacy, and that is the mantra of any war. Whenever there is a war, the first thing that the any defender has to do is to achieve air supremacy. That is the principle of any battle or any activity that Air Force will do. So when Air Force has to guide such a big force and also guard the borders of India, which is the ocean border, surrounded by ocean, and also the land border, and especially when we have problems with our neighbor, two large neighbors. One is China, which has become the global menace right now. It is flexing muscle and becoming a problem for many countries, not only in India. But there are border issues happening where the China is now saying that, hey, the border areas are mine, etc. So there are skirmishes happening on the border. And then the arch rival on the west, which is Pakistan, which born out of India in 1947 and has been indulging in a lot of nefarious activities. So moving on, I'm not covering those in detail because the objective of this video is to talk about long range guided bomb, which has been developed by India. So if you look at the strength in terms of military aircraft, India is number 4 in the world. Number 1 is obviously the United States because they have two air force. One is the Air Force, and there is an Air Force which is on the aircraft carriers, and that is also pretty large. They have 20 aircraft, and the Air Force, which operates from Navy ships, is also pretty large. Then followed by Russia, China, and then number 4 is India. And to maintain such large force, not only Air Force, but also military, and to maintain such big military to guard the border against China and Pakistan, as a result, India has become the largest importer of the military technology equipment from other countries. And because others are doing some research, and we review it and we acquire it because we need to guard against these large enemies. But because of this feature, I think a lot of the foreign exchange is going into defense purchases. So it is very important for us to become independent and as far as possible develop the indigenous technology. And there are several videos we have done, and this one is the latest one, which is for a long range bomb. Now whenever military or air force wants to destroy a large area, the easiest method and the cheapest method is to drop a bomb. But for dropping a bomb, you have to go in the harm's way over the target and then look at the target, aim it, and then drop your bomb. But then your aircrafts, which are very expensive, which you have purchased from outside India, come under the radar surveillance of the enemy, and they can shoot them down. So the trick is to use the missiles, long range missiles and long range bomb. But the missiles are not very big, they are small payloads. Therefore, the bombs are the best, because bombs you can pack up a lot of ammunition in it and then drop on the target, and one bomb will destroy, big area, big machinery, a lot of if there is a radar in this installation, one bomb is sufficient to destroy the entire radar station, which is monitoring the Indian border from the enemy side. That is why, long range guided bomb is very important, because it is big, and then the aircraft can drop the bomb far away from the intended target, far away from the range of the radar, far away from the defensive capabilities of the enemy. And so you go very high, and from a quite high, you drop your bomb, and then bomb will find its own trajectory and glide through and and hit the target. So the Indian bomb, which is the guided bomb, long range, when we say long range, it has a capability to glide for up to 100 kilometers from the target. So that means aircraft need not go very close or on top of the target. They can drop the bomb from very high altitude, and then bomb can be controlled using ground troops or laser guided, and it will find its own target, and it will hit the target with extreme precision. That means there will be no wastage, there will be no free fall of bombs. The bomb will hit with precision and accuracy, so it will destroy the target which needs to be destroyed during a battle. So as you can see, I'm trying to showcase in very brief. This middle section of the bomb is really the ammunition of the bomb, the explosive munition which is kept there. And in this bomb, there will be a munition of 1 ton. That means 1,000 kilograms, which is very, very highly explosive. And then there are 2 additional in the front as well as in the back. And you can see that there are fins over there, and there is a GPS-based guidance system. And this, the front section, which is the nose, is really the control unit, which will then guide the fins which are fitted in the back, so that after dropping, bomb can find its way, and using the precision GPS technology or laser guided, it can hit the target. Now, in case of laser guided bomb, the ground troops who are actually in the battle, they are actually looking at the target, and they want the target to be eliminated. So in those cases, what happens is that the aircraft will come on top from harm's way, very, very high and quite far away, at least 100 kilometers away from this target, drop the bomb, and then the bomb get controlled by the ground troops. So because they are actually seeing the target in front of them, and they can guide the bomb either using a laser or through a GPS precision technology, and make sure that the bomb eliminates the target which is in front of them. So this is how this technology works, and it's so far we have been buying from either other countries like US or Russia or Israel. For the first time, we have developed this heavy bomb, long range, guided, completely indigenous. So I think this is a very big deal. It is creating a landmark for for our nation's security, and also going to empower our Air Force, which is already very powerful. But then, in order to maintain two-front battle for the Air Force to acquire air supremacy, instead of increasing the numbers, we can actually spend that money in developing more precision and high-tech equipment, and give it to the Air Force so that they can become powerful without increasing their numbers or number of aircrafts. So I think this is one step in that direction, and therefore it is an important one. Friends, do write in your comments and let me know what you think. If you have anything specific about this news, uh, write in and I will respond to each one of you, and I will catch you in the next one.
Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
Good morning, Neville.
Good morning, CK. Another bright and sunny day in London after a full moon, beautiful full moon. And yourself?
Yes, it is bright and sunny and hot. Today is day 15.
Day 15 of lockdown. And we're on that letter L today, but we're not going to talk about lockdown. We're going to talk about how to get out of lockdown, unlocking lockdown, because there's a great opportunity here. And we're going to look at the word leverage, which
Certainly.
not many people understand, really, mainly because they don't understand how they can leverage what they're doing. And we're talking on a perfect platform, the Top Brass platform, which in itself is opportunity to leverage. But there are elements of leveraging, using your organization and the levers that are out there. And obviously, you need to be a good leader. So leadership comes into it. And we were talking, you and I were talking about the elements of leadership a little while ago. And one of the biggest elements of leadership is you need to know what's going on. You need to be that Sherlock Holmes, be the investigator, find out exactly what's going on. And I think you were saying that you've got kids that were doing that very thing, during lockdown. Isn't that right?
Yes, Neville. Actually, kids have tried everything because they are in total lockdown. They have tried to play carom. They've tried to play chess. They've tried to play anything that is all the games available. The only thing is that they are not allowed to go out. And kids want to run. They want to go to park. They want to play cricket. They want to play whatever team games. So since the kids are stuck, and yesterday I was surprised, as you can see in this picture, they started their binoculars and they started observing things from our penthouse.
But that's brilliant, because they're doing what we would say is the very first form of leadership. They're becoming aware of what's going on, and we call that being an investigator. What do I see? Why am I seeing that? What's happening over there? And that is a fundamental part of leverage, because if you don't know what's currently happening, you're not going to be able to leverage what you're doing into what's happening, if that makes sense. So the classic is utilizing LinkedIn platforms, Facebook platforms. Again, these are digital platforms, and they're really the only place at the moment, apart from picking up the phone and calling people, that you can really start to leverage your business and get your team to leverage it as well, which allows you to have communication with other people, so you can collaborate through leveraging what you do, what they do, make that introduction. So leverage is one of these words that people really have never really understood, because they're so deep involved in what they're currently doing. But just take a step back. Be that investigator, like your kids yesterday. Put the binoculars on.
have a good look what's going on out there. And it's the first element of being a good leader. You might call it being aware in its simple form. But how aware are we? Do we really know what's happening in our organization, in our business? How people are thinking when we communicate with them? Are we clear with our communication? So all of these things get wrapped up. But if we're into our leverage mode, we need to investigate what's happening and really find out the nuts and bolts of not just what makes the business work, but what makes me work, and more importantly, what makes our customers work. Because in the past, we've talked about from contact to contract is one letter, R, relationships. And it comes back to the first thing. What relationships have I got? How can I leverage those relationships? Are they important to me? Now's the time to make all those actions. And you've got hundreds of people that you've been relating to and calling over the last few weeks while you've been on lockdown. And you've been leveraging those conversations, I'm sure. You know, anyone in particular that comes out, what problems they're facing or what issues that they're looking at?
Yes, Deval. In fact, let me summarize my discussions with a lot of people. See, there was a time where, you know, we all thought, you, me, and my colleagues, that any sales or any business cannot be generated without the person getting on the street, getting into the car, and going physically have a face-to-face meeting with a client. In fact, there are companies like Levers and some of these large companies, they have invested heavily in developing van salesmen. That means the sales guys used to live in van and then do business out of van. For the last 100 years, I think what we are seeing is going to rewrite the whole concept. And from B2B business, I think the new model will evolve, that is consumer to consumer. And most of the people are having difficulty understanding this thing which is visible right on our face. And you know, a lot of leaders are saying, hey, I mean, the B2B is going out of the window, and the business model which will evolve now will be consumer to consumer. And I think that is a summary of what, to answer your question, that is the summary that I got from my experience.
Well, it's an interesting concept because the bottom line is you're a consumer. I'm a consumer. We happen to be business owners. So if we can put ourselves in the position of us as a consumer, we will make not just the C2C work and the B2C work, we will really make the B2B work. So whether or not new business models come out of this is perhaps a little too early to understand. I mean, I've heard people have said this year, we're going to lose 2 quarters. So half the year will disappear. But they're positioning themselves to come back, to leverage where they currently are and come back and get triple the sales, because not just the competition may have disappeared for whatever reason, but the competition may not have got up to speed as fast as they have. So they're really taking advantage of the digital arena. And we've only got to look at history here. A lot of people thought Amazon were mad when they started to go into the book world. Because Amazon literally was, oh, you bought this book, would you like to buy this other one? And then all of a sudden, they become the biggest retailer in the world. From absolutely nowhere. You know, I mean, it took a number of years, obviously, but they took the leap. They took that leap early. They saw an opportunity in the marketplace and they took the leap. And now, if you look at what Amazon is, they've completely leveraged their model. What they've got is they've got lots of people that know Amazon. And we all know the picture of Amazon, you know, the A to Z, that little arrow that goes underneath. And in the back of our mind, we know from A to Z, I can get anything. If it's in the alphabet, they will supply me and they'll deliver anywhere. And as we now know, drone delivery is either there or will be a big feature in the next 2 to 3 years. And of course, that'll be digital too, because they'll be able to deliver it to your penthouse. They won't have to climb the stairs. They won't have to ring the bell and say, come down and get it, you know, as they're currently doing here now, you know, they're delivering to the curbside. So again, just think of where your business is currently, but you've really got to, it's self-reflection. Have a good look at where you are, what you can do, and then leverage out of it. And what you will find is that a lot of your leverage opportunities will come from you being a good leader and being able to collaborate more with other people. And we know how to collaborate. It's just that we haven't really worked out what we're doing. So that's part of thinking and introspection of what you're currently doing in a business. But like anything else, day 15, and we've got a few more days to go. But I believe your cabinet's meeting today, so your lockdown may well extend. So, and could even get worse. So, tighter restrictions. But again, you're not in control of that. Someone else is going to make those decisions. So it needs to be in the mix, you know, in your planning, but come out the other side much, much stronger. And you can if you really look.
So, Neville, in fact, we are totally geared up for a few days ahead, or few months ahead, or, you know, counting our quarters. And we have built this platform called Top Brass, which allows consumer to consumer interactions. So, and it is available. I mean, I welcome people to collaborate with you and me to reach out to the client, find new ways to address the clients and customers, or even existing clients. So our platform can be leveraged. And while everybody is on lockdown, because we don't know how long the lockdown will continue, and even after the lockdown is lifted in a phased manner, it is not going to be walk in the park.
No.
So I think we are locked in for some more time. So leverage.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And as you say, over time, I mean, it may be, and we've heard from Paris today, that actually it's going to get very tight. It's going to get tighter. So they're narrowing their opportunities currently. There will be an unlocking period. So the dogs will be let out. The point is they're not going to be let out, as you say, straight into the park. There'll be a phased unlocking. So we need to position ourselves for all elements of that unlocking process. So we do have time now, but make the most of time. Don't say, I'll do it tomorrow. Because as you know, that's behavioral waste. That's knowing what you really need to achieve today to do it tomorrow. Because guess what? When you wake up in the morning and the sun's shining, you say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Because your habit is now forming. And you do not want to form that habit of, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow.
And tomorrow never.
That's not, well, exactly. The words and the phrases are out there. Tomorrow never comes. And so do what you can today as though tomorrow will never come. And then you know you can feel confident and accomplished of what you've done today. That's not to say you won't have a huge list of things to do. You know, I've got loads of lists that I have to get on with. But achieve them. Leverage what you're doing. That's the message today. Get an opportunity The digital arena is definitely here. We're evidence of it, being several thousand miles away, still talking to each other. So now the message for you today is use the platform, this platform, any other platform, but understand your business needs, what it's capable of doing, what your customers want, and get out there and keep telling them, this is what you do, this is how you do it. Keep the message flowing.
Thank you,
Because
I
day 16 is coming.
absolutely. I hope people are listening to you. You are such a great voice from our industry. You are literally a leader and corporate mentor. I hope people listen to you and they get prepared for days to come.
Well, I hope so. And like anything else, give us your feedback. We're here. These sessions are here to help you. You know, and you'll struggle. We all struggle, but you'll struggle even more if you don't ask. So send us what problems you're having. Send us the difficulties perhaps that you're facing. There's always an answer. We may not have the answer, but we probably know someone that has. So good luck. Day 16 tomorrow. You're halfway through your day. I'm sort of a bit through my day. So be safe, stay home, and enjoy it. It will never be like this again.
You too, Neville, and we'll again speak tomorrow.
Cheers, CK.
Bye-bye.
Hello friends, this is Akulmach live and I am Chandrakant. And you know that we are all using digital mediums to communicate, and this has changed the world in more than one way. And one of the impact of the digital communication is that it has broken the barriers of various castes, creed, and even countries. And it has started a drive which has just begun. Basically, it's called the inclusive workforce. So today, this is a topic of our discussion: inclusive workforce, and we have a very important guest, a global leader of sorts and a celebrity. And we will start our discussion shortly. But before that, I'd like to tell you that there is a giveaway. So please stick around till the end during this outstanding show. We will tell you in the end how you can claim your free gift. Hello friends, let's introduce our guest today. His name is Jeremy Blaine, and he is a CEO of a very famous organization now, and also a best author. We will be talking about his book today, and the topic of our discussion is inclusive workforce. And Jeremy has suddenly become very popular worldwide because there are a lot of people reading his book. So without further ado, let me present Mr. Blaine, who will then give us his perspective about inclusive workforce.
Thank you very much for having me again, CK, and hello to everybody tuning in for this week's episode. Yeah, I'm very passionate about this, CK, because the one thing that I've noticed from a workplace perspective over this past year, which has been really tough, is that borders, physical borders, and in some ways borders of perception have been broken down. Many organizations, including my own, we've embraced remote working. Geographical borders don't matter. I'm not now working with people necessarily within 30 kilometers of where I live or where I work. I'm embracing a worldwide workforce from everywhere. And what we're seeing out there in many organizations is a positive impact on the traditional discrimination lenses that are happening in the workplace. So in fact, it has become more diverse and inclusive. and more equitable in how we're doing business, because suddenly we've all found ourselves in the same boat. Everybody is here. Everybody is under the pressure to work differently. Every business is under pressure to find new ways of going. And these traditional things that happen often in our offices and workplaces, the office politics, the discrimination, the unconscious and conscious bias, it's removed because we're seeing people through the lens of a camera, and everybody is making an effort to support each other because we all need it. So what I'm hopeful of, if there is a hope to, as we emerge from COVID and move back into the new normal, my hope is that we take this forward with us and become a much more, not just diverse and inclusive workforce, but equitable, which is balancing an equal opportunity for many people. And as you rightly say, it's a theme actually that I talk about in my book, which is called The Inner CEO, Unleashing Leaders at All Levels. This is about the spirit of empowerment. And I wrote this, of course, before the pandemic, but it was released just kind of during the pandemic, if you like. And it's really quite interesting because I was arguing for this, and I was arguing that in a diverse, inclusive, and equitable environment, the spirit of empowerment can truly flourish. And of course, we're seeing evidence for that already. So I like to claim that I'm ahead of the game on this one, CK, because it's something that I was very passionate about in the book, and something very important, I feel, for workplaces and organizations everywhere.
Well, Jeremy, I think it looks like that you had forecasted, or and in the olden days, people used to say, "Hey, he has foretold the truth. What is going to happen." So, I think which chapter covers about this particular aspect?
Well, yes, I'm indeed a seer of empowerment. In fact, I talk about this all the way through because I feel that we've been talking about leadership at all levels for over 100 years in many organizations. You know this. In all the organizations that we work with, we need to empower our people. We need you to take ownership for what you're doing. But the thing is, it's not equitable in many of our organizations. Many organizations talk a good game, but they don't put the things in place at organizational senior leadership level for it to flourish. That's what you need first. And then you need a safe environment for everybody, regardless of any diversity and inclusion lens that has got in the way in the past, to be able to step up in their role and actually do more, go beyond, because it's been proved that's what people are doing this year. Not only have we been trying to, master our job role in the virtual world, but we've been supporting others in doing more. We've been on project teams. We've been working closer with our teams, and these barriers are coming down. So across the book, actually, this is a theme that I come back to because it's just so important. And I was able to include in the book things that were happening at the time when I was putting the final touches together, like what was happening in the US, of course, with the Black Lives Matter movement, with the debate still on gender diversity. In fact, there's something that I refer to, which I think is really, really important. I don't know if you remember the film, which illustrates the point for me, Hidden Figures in 2016. It was based on the three African-American mathematicians, all female, who worked for NASA, who were doing the calculations about how to get to the moon and, the rockets and so on. And they made vital contributions to the US Space Agency. It was Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and Catherine Goebel Johnson, I think. And they had structural bias to get through. They had gender and race against them at a time when men ruled the corporate areas, they ruled the space race, etc. And also race was coming into it. And yet they made this incredible inspirational contribution, which enabled the US to get men into space and men on the moon. And my point about my book is that I think we have many hidden figures within our organizations who haven't been given the opportunity to step up and shine and step out. because I don't know, because their face hasn't fit. It's not been thought. They're somewhere else. They're not in our office. They're based somewhere else. Some of these biases coming into it. So for me, the opportunity now is to look back at what's happened over this last year and celebrate the fact that actually many of these individuals have been enabled to step up. Organizations have actually removed some of these biases and found that more people can contribute more to the business as a whole. And I think that's something to celebrate out of what has been a terrible year.
In fact, Jeremy, when you say like this, I think it makes a lot of sense. And what is happening right now is that there are new leaders which are emerging. So whatever network you have built over last 20 years or 30 years, all these big wigs, their network has no meaning right now because somebody has to reinvent their network in the digital space. So they have to still go through the same process what a youngster would have to do right now. When youngster is out of the college, is making his network, the same challenge remains for big wigs at this point in time. So really this pandemic has brought equality among everyone, and it has broken down the country barrier. Like you and I are talking, we are like 7,000 miles away from each other, but we are talking and doing work. So I think it does not matter anymore which color, which country, the borders are dissolving. I think one thing which still remains is the currency exchange and free trade. Would you have any opinion on that? And recently India and the UK has signed up a very big deal to promote trade. In the backdrop of what you have written in your book, would you have any opinion on a free trade policy across the world?
Well, this is actually an example of barriers being broken down, because many countries and economies that may have found it difficult before to trade internationally or to find new ways to get their products to market or to source products to come in, and services, of course, have been caught up in the politics of it. We've just come through, well, let's not forget, before COVID hit, our economies and organizations were going through huge transformation, digital workforce transformation, the blended workforce, you name it. All these diversity lenses, we were tackling all of these big issues as a perfect storm. And of course, we had just had a 10-year global financial crisis. So many economies were looking at how do we accelerate again? And then COVID hit. And so there is a much greater need now to reduce the level of politics and to start thinking much more about, well, how can we do things more efficiently and effectively and quickly, so that we can actually break down traditional barriers, whether they're economic barriers, whether they're diversity lenses, whether they are cultural mindsets, whatever they are, to actually do things in a much more efficient way that benefits everybody.
Well, I think cultural barriers are almost negligible because everybody is using Zoom or some platform or the other, which has the same ethos. It has the same function, same features, same menu, everything is same. So all you have to do is click and you're on, and you have to look good. I think rules of the game are the same while talking, and you have to develop new etiquettes, and it doesn't matter whether you're which race, which color. What remains is a problem which I feel as an entrepreneur myself, that in order to do trade, there are still currency bottlenecks. And in fact, the Singapore and Thailand showed the way recently. They actually merged two of their micro payment applications, allowing people to transfer money from here to there. And they have capped it to about 1,000 Singapore dollars. So this is what we need as part of inclusion. So inclusion on the digital platform is happening. I think people are more and more used to it. There are many programs which are running, but I think the governments have to move forward now in a real sense to enable inclusions of businesses. Otherwise, large corporations will continue to rule the whole thing, and the SMEs and startups will lose out because they will not have mechanism to make the payment or collect the money. What is your opinion?
Yeah. Well, I think this just goes back to actually the big discussion about a more diverse, equitable, inclusive approach to everything that we do, not just the human touch, but to how we integrate digital, how we make it easy for people to transfer money. Let's say, for example, make it easy for all levels of society. And in fact, I think we need a new language. So for me, instead of diversity and inclusion, I think we need to talk about representation and belonging. So we need a representation, and it's a mindset, this as much as a language. Representation, are we representing everybody in the right way so that they can thrive in the workplace, so that they can do their transactions efficiently as other people can who have, much more at their fingertips that they can, and they have much more of the luxury of being able to find different ways of doing it. Perhaps, representation of the poorer people in societies and some of the poorer economies and nations, to bring them up to a level more rapidly so that they can work with the rest of the world on a level playing field. So I think that's the first one. And then move away from an unequal society and look at a more equitable society. So, and that goes beyond transactions into resources. It's famine and feast, isn't it? And fundamentally, clearly, in parts of the world, it's about that when we talk about food. The unequal distribution of resources is still a massive issue for the world. Climate change is impacting some of the poorer nations of the world, so they're not able to even secure their crops, let's say, for any given year. And yet the resources in the bumper crops where they have thrived in countries that are perhaps ahead of them, it's not being equitably distributed. So that is one thing. And it's often because we use the word bias, unconscious or conscious bias. So our biases mean that, well, why should we do that? We're not thinking in that sort of macro planet being a force for good way. We should start thinking, instead of bias, about tolerance. How do we become more tolerant to economies, people who may have struggled in the past, may have made some poor decisions in the past, but through no fault of their own, and need some help to get up so that they become part of the global family, and so that we can distribute resources more equally, we can transact more equally, and give people more opportunities. Because in many of those countries, and I think in Southeast Asia, I'm thinking about in South Asia, in Africa, in parts of Europe, even still in parts of Latin America as well, this transcends into very directly into race and gender bias, and back to race and gender bias as well. So you find then that the decision making around some of these things is still in the hands of the few. And I think if we get over this and talk about what we're talking about being more diverse, we start to have a much more broader diversity of thinking, which is an incredibly important addition that we all need to think about, CK.
Taking the discussion forward and bringing the inclusion, and you made a lot of pertinent points, how do we actually do it? Do you think cryptocurrency plays a major role in bringing this up?
Cryptocurrency has benefited, again, the rich and the people who know and who have the access to technology and the resources, so that they can use it as a trading platform at the moment. If this is again on a more equitable, inclusive and diverse platform, it may be different. But right now, I think the jury is out on cryptocurrencies about what is actually going to happen. Will the bubble burst? Nobody knows. All we hear about at the moment are the people that invested, who were able to, because they had the opportunity and the finances to invest over the last sort of 2 to 5 years and have made a lot of money out of it. That's really not great news for all of these people that we're talking about that don't have this opportunity, don't have the equitable platform to use it. So again, it's a tool of the haves, not the have-nots at the moment. So I think it will become a serious prospect once we make it much more inclusive.
Well, you are talking about all of these subjects in your book. Would you like to draw references on how you have provided solution of all these problems to the readers?
Yeah, well, I come back to the point about empowerment. If we take away some of these old lenses that we've got and we give people the opportunity to shine, to go beyond a job description, to be what we used to call them, a leader at their level, and to have ideas, to sponsor their ideas, to allow them to contribute more with different people across borders, taking down old barriers, then I think we will mine the diamonds within our own organizations and societies, because we're giving more people the opportunity to shine. The problem with talent strategies, so-called, and talent, is that it's with a capital T. That talent with a capital T is exclusive. It's for the few. In my book, I argue we should start talking about talent with a small t, which is a much more inclusive and broad approach to this that should give, while we acknowledge that not everybody will be able to or would want to step up, it gives much more people the opportunity to show what they can do. And who knows what will happen? Who knows who will emerge and become the next big idea in the organization, will drive the next innovation, become the next leader at their level that brings other people with them. This is really the thread of my book, that we have these diamonds within the organizations, and there is no better time as we emerge from COVID to unleash the potential of the broader organization, not just in the hands of the few.
Well, I think there is an English saying, and I cannot help mentioning that, I told you so, So I think
yes, well, I'd like to think I go back to this. I was a bit of fortune telling here, but yes, yeah, thank you. Carry on.
Well, I think all the viewers, you can read about inclusive workforce and much, much more in the Inner CEO book written by Mr. Jeremy Blaine. And it has become one of the bestseller right now, most sought after book, both on Amazon in soft as well as a paperback edition. So Jeremy, thank you so much for coming and talking to us about this very, very pertinent subject.
It's a pleasure, and yes, it's available on Amazon. And the news today is that within the next 4 weeks, I'm going to release the audio book as well, and that will be on all platforms like Spotify, Deezer, Amazon, YouTube, all of those kind of things too. So yeah, plenty of different formats. But go and take a look. The Inner CEO: Unleashing Leaders at All Levels at your nearest Amazon store now. Thank you, CK.
Wish you all the best, Jeremy, and I'm sure a lot of people will get this book, audiobook, or whatever form they want to access your intellectual property and learn about, what is going on, how the new decade will look like. I think it's very, very critical for everyone to read. So thank you so much once again for joining us in our show. We'll catch up in the next event.
Thank you, CK.
Bye-bye. We have some unique Akulmach memorabilia which will make you look outstanding. The graphics on these corporate gifts are based on the global best business practices. To become recipient of one of these gifts for free, you have to watch this video till the end and provide your valuable comments. Or you can also share your experiences. The person who makes the best comment would be chosen to become a recipient of these beautiful Akulmach gift, absolutely free, delivered to your doorsteps. The winner would also get a chance to be invited live as a distinguished panelist during our next video. What are you waiting for, friends? Please subscribe Akulmach and smash that like button.
Hello, friends. This is Chandrakant from Akulmach Technologies, and today I thought that I will start a digital course for the benefit of everyone across the world. And the reason behind starting this course is really increasing the literacy around the digital arena. So, as we know that the world is moving towards and therefore it is very, very important for everyone to become literate as far as the digital skills are concerned. So in this course we will not give you any training about what digital skills you need to know, like presentation skills, talking skills, and so on and so forth. Rather, we will concentrate on the digital quotient. Now, before I start this course, let me give you a little bit of background. The course, as you know, is called Top Brass DQ. DQ stands for the Digital Intelligence Quotient, and we will talk about what is DQ in a moment. But in entirety, this particular course will talk more about digital literacy skills and whether you are ready for the next couple of years and find new opportunities. So you see, friends, if we have to look at the industry, we are talking about Industry 4.0 at this point in time. A lot of organizations are coming towards Industry 4.0 based solution, but let's understand what is the evolution and how we have reached to Industry 4.0. At some point in time in the past, it was Industry 1.0, which was essentially at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, which predominantly started in Europe. In those days, the success of individual was entirely dependent on the physical skills, how much strength you have, what is your endurance from the physical standpoint. And that is why the success was largely dependent on whether this person can physically exert himself, and that translated, or that quality of humans translated into creating industry which is 1.0, and that industry 1.0 reigned starting from 1700 roughly to about 1850. And in 1850, when people started becoming more inclined towards mathematics and physics, and some of these, developing music, which also require a lot of skills. So the mind power started coming in a big way, and that mind power essentially started in 1850, where people started using their mind and their intellect to started inventing things. So the era of discoveries and inventions started, much before 1850. But let's say for the simplicity, it's 1850 onwards. And from that point in time, all these new skills which are coming out from thinking process of human beings laid the foundation of Industry 2.0, which again reigned for a couple of years. And so basically, how much intelligent you are was known as IQ. And I think most of us has heard about what is IQ. It's the intelligence question. So the real intelligence being measured started in 1850, and till today it is being measured. I mean, the IQ tests are there, and then if you are interested in knowing more about IQ, you can go and Google it. You will know about IQ. But really, in 1950, uh, the era of having emotions also part of your thinking power was established very well. And when you can control crowd, when you can convey your ideas, you can handle emotions, you can handle objections. So these are all skills which are required in order to succeed beyond 1950. So just to summarize, there was a time when you need only physical skills, and there was a time when you just need thinking and knowledge based skills. And in 1950 and beyond, you also need emotional skills and soft skills. You should be able to speak properly. You should be able to address the crowd. You should be able to convey the idea. So really, the combination of all these powers that human had was known as EQ, which is a combination of mind, knowledge, and soft skills and emotions. So this EQ quotient was driving the industry 3.0. In this time, there's a lot of conversation about computer chips. There's a whole revolution which happened between 1950 to 2010. The internet came in a big way. Humans sent satellite to the space. Man landed on moon. Uh, Big submarines were created by large countries, and a lot of advancements. The cars, ships, supply chain, enterprise resource planning, music. So it revolutionized the EQ quotient of mankind, revolutionized the industry 3.0 and created a foundation. Now, this was going on until 2010, and in 2010, Industry 4.0 came in being, which is the next stage of human technological evolution. And this is being driven by the EQ plus an additional factor of how much digital knowledge you have. So this is the emergence of something called DQ. So from 2010 onwards, how much successful you will be to get employed in industry 4.0 or 4.0 will be largely dependent on your DQ. So what is DQ? DQ stands for your mind, knowledge, your emotions, your soft skills, and also your literacy levels on the digital platform. So right now, the industry 4.0 is driving the entire industry. The digital is coming in a big way. And as we move forward towards industry 5.0, the chances are there will be an AI-based engine, there will be virtual reality, which will come in a big way. But that is for future. But for next 10 years, UQ plays a major role. So every human being has to ensure that they have a higher DQ in order to stay relevant for next 10 years and develop skills which are employable in the industry 4.0. So this is something, the basis of what we want to offer for everyone, whether you are a teenager or you are a professional or even an elderly person. Everyone has to increase their DQ, and this course will open up the thought process of everyone, and they will push to attain higher DQ. So what are the risks if you do not have a DQ? So if you don't have the DQ, there are a lot of threats. I mean, apart from a threat which is that you are not relevant and you may not be employable after some time, but then there are threats which are related to children. So, their abuse can happen on the internet, because internet is being utilized by everyone today. Your banking is happening through internet. Your supply chain is happening through internet. Your retail business, your groceries are all going on the internet platform, and also the education. In fact, the court system, legal system is also moving towards the digital arena. The tradition of court is usually was the lawyer will stand in front of judge. All that is moving towards on a video conferencing platforms. Then your taxation is moving towards the digital world, and also the education. So the first party which is affected by this transition is the children, because they are studying not in the classroom, they're studying in a class, but the class is virtual class. They along with their students, their fellow students, they actually attend the class through an online platform, and therefore they expose themselves for online abuse, some sort of addiction, some sort of digital information, fake news.
Also, sometimes invasion to their privacy, because if they are not aware or if they do not have the right skills to control the internet using their DQ, they will be under a lot of threats. There are other things which we can talk about, and we will address those issues during this course. Then the identity theft. This is a very big risk. It's basically you're losing your identity and somebody else assumes your identity. So since you're on the internet, the physical appearance has to be exactly replicated on the internet, on the platforms. So if you don't have that kind of DQ, so that you can control your physical uh, match your physical presence with your internet-based presence, there is a chance that your identity can be stolen, can be misused, and you will suffer because of that. Or the person whose identity has been stolen will have to suffer the consequences of this. And the last risk is cybercrime. So cybercrime is basically like a war at this point in time, where this crime can be committed using internet against a person or a company or a corporation or even a country. You can actually wage a war electronically, digitally on a country to spoil their finances, to create a narrative. You can influence an election, which will then change the direction in which the country is moving. So there are a lot of risks associated with not having adequate DQ in humans. So, what are the real problems that we need to focus on? The real problems are really, first, you have to become a digital citizen of the world. That means whatever you are in the physical form, the same has to be replicated in the digital arena. And there is increasing need for orientation programs to make you aware how you can become a better digital citizen. That means you should be able to uh, be literate to use different systems which are available, like gaming, banking, taxation, purchasing, supply chain, order management, thousand other things. TV programming, watching some sort of content, and so on. So everything has to be done by your identity, and you have to control your identity so that it should not be misused. Second is the opportunity. So more and more people are now realizing that the digital skills are paramount. Even the large corporations will employ people with higher digital skills. So digital creativity is very important. Digital creativity is something which will make the adult population relevant in their job arena. And last but not the least, the problem is the competitiveness. Now, everybody is, there was a time when you had to physically compete with each other in a classroom or in a job, for promotions, for making money, for raising funds. But all of that has now moved to digital arena, where you have to raise funds in a digital platform. You have to you have to study using digital platform. You have to present yourself in digital platforms. So there is a lot of competition which is brewing on the internet. So these are the problem statements, and higher DQ will give you solution to succeed. For example, if you are a good digital citizen with higher DQ, then you will learn to live in a digital environment safely, responsibly, and also use technology in a very optimum manner. Next one is digital creativity, which will give you uh, ability to turn your ideas into reality using digital platforms. So if you have a digital bend of mind, you have a higher DQ, you will be more creative. You will be able to come out with opportunities for yourself and for your people within your group or your employees, and generate revenue for everyone. And the last is the digital competitiveness. So since the competition is happening on the internet today, everything is moving on to internet. Even the media has moved to internet. All your TV channels are coming through network. No longer the time have gone that you need to read any magazine or a newspaper. Today you read everything on the internet. So higher DQ will propel you further to become a much more smarter entrepreneur and basically create your impact. So these are the things which will higher DQ will give you. And in order to increase your DQ, see, I am telling you that we are not going to give you any digital training in this program. We will only focus on increasing your literacy around the digital intelligence question. So we have divided this course into 24 different chapters so that by end of every chapter, you are expert in that particular quality, and you move towards becoming more literate and have a higher DQ. So starting with digital identity, what are the ways you can actually control your identity, and introduce you what is digital identity and how you can protect yourself. Going forward, how to use technology. Because if you keep clicking everywhere, the chances are that there are a lot of viruses and malware may infect and probably create a risk environment for you. The third chapter is about cybersecurity, and the cybersecurity can be affected. You can be affected by cybersecurity because of the behavior. Sometimes there are some behavioral aspects that you don't even look at it. So in that chapter, we will cover about that. Then there is something called personal cybersecurity. So in chapter 4, we will cover that. Digital empathy, digital footprint management. When you use your system, you actually leave a lot of information about yourself. So how to prevent that happening. Then there is a media information literacy. Say when you're actually talking about your business or about your subject, you have to consult, you have to basically use media, which is the online media. So there will be a chapter on media information and literacy around that. Then privacy management. Then there is a co-creator identity. Sometimes you and your colleague both become creator of something, and then what is your identity and also the co-creator identity is important, which will give you a higher DQ. Healthy use of technology, content risk management, network security, self-awareness, communication and collaboration. So these are all different subjects. There are 24 different subjects that we will talk about in this course. Content creation, IPR stands for Intellectual Property Rights Management. So there are a lot of legality around it. You no longer, you can copy somebody else's work and start claiming as yours. So there are a lot of IPR, there are a lot of legal issues around it. Then if you're making a change to your system, so change maker identity. Civic use of technology, community cyber risk, cyber security, relationship management, mass communication, AI literacy, and rights management. So these are the 24 subjects we will be covering in our course, and today's session is only about the awareness overview, and every day or every after 1 or 2 days I will be publishing all these different chapters separately in the form of video, which are very easy to watch. In the end, if you complete the entire course, you will be DQ'd. Your DQ will be much higher. Your mind will open up about the possibilities, and you will get a chance of increasing your skills so that you are employable in Industry 4.0. So friends, I just want to give you this overview today, but very soon I will meet you again and continue this course as I explained in different chapters. So there are 24 chapters. Wait and study all of those 24 sessions that I will be presenting to you. So see you next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.